You are now locked in to the Sitting Down with the Sisters podcast.
Hi guys! Welcome back to another episode of Sitting Down with the Sisters. We are your hosts. I'm Ashley.
I'm Tammy.
I'm Ayo.
And as you can see, we're not alone.
Like, this is what, our fourth episode?
Yeah.
And we have a special guest. In the room. Johnny, do you want to introduce yourself to us?
Hi guys, I'm Jonifa.
Hi, Jonifa.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Sitting Down with the Sisters podcast.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so good. Yeah. Sorry, I've just had a bit of food, so I'm just getting myself together. There's like food stuck in my teeth and everything.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm 27. I live in Southeast London. I work in PR as like my 9 to 5.
Nice.
And then on the side, I have like a blog, which is called I Have Something to Say, which basically just breaks down like life experiences using like mind, body and soul. Because I feel like a lot of the times like people give you advice, but they never really tell you how to like apply it. So that's kind of what the blog kind of does. Like at the end of every section, I always have like a consider page, which kind of like tells you, okay, now that I've given you all this advice, this is practical steps. But and I started it during like lockdown because, you know, I had to get myself together and do things whilst I didn't have like, because I was unemployed for a bit. So yeah, it's just my passion project that I like doing. And
that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Johnny. And what was the name of it? Do you want to say a bit louder for the people in the back that can hear that?
It's called I Have Something and then the number 2 say.net.
Nice.
Okay. And
Nice.
that's on Instagram, or where can we catch it?
Just Google search and then I have an Instagram, but it's not there yet. So
Okay.
We'll put it in the description box.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description below for those that want to read about it. I've read, and honestly, it's amazing. I think it touches on like black culture in the UK as well, and just other things.
So yeah, that's another.
That's the other one. Actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Those
But then you have
So I also write for this other publication called Black Brit as well.
I want.
Because, so basically, I just feel like with like when it comes to like black culture, I feel like it's always like America. Like when it comes to like blackness.
Yeah.
So
sure.
This publication basically focuses purely on just being a black Brit, which I kind of feel like it's also kind of a new concept as well.
It's a unique experience as well.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the blog basically is just all about being a black Brit, and then like we just focus on like the culture, music. And,
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Should we put that in the link? We'll
Yeah.
put that
Yeah,
in
we'll
the
put that
link.
down there as
Everything. The link.
But
I
yeah.
love the name. I Have Something to Say because it very much goes with Sitting Down with
Yeah.
Sisters, because we always
Have something to say.
We always have
I love
something to
that.
say.
Absolutely. No,
That's
that's
so
a good
true.
one. But you've probably seen it from the below and just what we're going to talk about today. It's a bit of a different one. So we haven't actually necessarily spoken about this before.
Yeah,
we
we
might have
haven't.
maybe integrated it in some of the topics we've had, but we've not had a topic about it specifically. So today we're focusing on grief, trauma, and what was the last one? And healing. And I think in our community, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. And again, I know I blame everything on social media. I know I do, but I feel like social media has a part to play as to why we don't see this side of people sometimes. Everything is very glamorized online, and, everyone that's online, having a great life. Apparently, they don't need any healing. They're perfect, and they just know how to maneuver life. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they were God's favorite and God gave them the manual book, a manual guide to how to live the perfect life. And anytime I go on social media, that's what I see a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe these days, to be fair, we're giving each other grace and we're being more transparent on just the healing journey that some people might be going through and the traumas that they've been through. And I think the reason why a lot of people share these things is just so if anyone else is going through something similar, they can know that they're not alone, and they can know that they've got support systems around them, and what I noticed that a lot of people do, even TV shows, they do it these days just to raise awareness, but at the end they always put sort of links or just ways or guidance of how you can get help if you need it. So I think the topic is sort of revolving, is being brought to light, which I think is very good, but more has to be done about it.
Definitely.
So I feel like it's just definitely something that we thought we'd touch on the pod.
I think it's hard as well, because I feel like a lot of people, they don't like focus inwardly. Everything is so externally.
Outward, yeah.
And it's like we live in such a society which is just so distracted, like you said, with social media and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like actually like the internal work needs to be done first before you show up externally.
Absolutely. The internal work. So I was going to say quickly, the internal work needs to be done. And I feel like because it's so easy to get distracted by what we see on the exterior, everyone tries to take care of just the physical aspect of themselves, like looking good, you know, buying the best clothes or doing their hair a certain way. But what's the point of all of that if within you're not at your best, you're broken, you're not happy, you know? And that's where mental health comes into it as well.
Definitely. I feel like we live in a very hypercritical society, so it's very easy for us to tell people the therapy that they need. When it comes to ourselves,
right,
it is something else. And I feel like what we all need to know is that healing is an essential part of every human's journey. Like there's never going to be a human that doesn't need to heal from something. What we're healing from can vary. Do you know what I mean? Everybody has been exposed to different, you know, types of trauma. And I know I feel like the word trauma is a very big buzzword at the moment, but when I found out that trauma just literally means like wound, like it's like a part of you that's been wounded. So it could be anything, but it's like a wound. That's what trauma is. It's like an open wound, and that can be so psychologically anything that's happened to you as a child or as an adult or anything. Everybody has had something that's wounded them and has now then impacted how they then go on to live the rest of their life. And I think it's encouraging to know that you're not the only person that has to heal, because I think sometimes what is constantly like being shared online is you can't do anything until you're healed, but everybody's healing. Do you know what I mean? It's not just
it's a journey. Like you have to,
you know what I mean?
Whatever it is that we're doing in life, like we do it whilst healing. It doesn't necessarily have to look one way. Some people see trauma and they see healing as just a certain way. Like you have to take time out from everything that you're doing and you just have to focus on that healing journey. Of course, that can be the case for some people, but not everyone has to go through healing that way. Healing can be, I'm still getting on with life, I'm still doing the things that I need to do, but I'm still working on how to get over this particular situation, whether it be a loss, whether it be you know, a relationship, heartbreak, or friendship, or whatever it is that we're trying to heal from or move on from. And another thing that I wanted to mention is I'm beginning to really enjoy, and I hope it's not a trend, because you know how with social media and just how we just pick things and drop them, there's a culture of picking things up, and like you said, there's a buzzword around it. Social media makes it a big thing, and then it just disappears, and a few years later we're like, oh my god, where did that go? But there's a whole topic and discussion around therapy, and a lot of black people are becoming more transparent, being open to going to therapy. I think I've had a conversation with a lot of people recently about therapy, and I'm so glad to hear sort of how they've welcomed that discussion and how open they are and transparent to having those conversations with therapists. Whereas, again, I don't know why I always do this, but I always compare generations. Whereas our parents' generation, if we spoke about therapy to them, they'll be like, there's nothing wrong with me, I don't need therapy, you know? Therapy doesn't necessarily look like that. It doesn't have to be that way.
I think it's because they literally don't recognize it. Like, I remember having a conversation with my dad the other day, and I was like, oh Dad, you know, like a lot of people are sad in this generation. He was like, why be sad? Why are you sad? Like, it's just
they
very,
don't get it. Like, did any of you get this when you were younger, when you'd maybe have an off day, or you're just not happy on that day? Because it does happen, we're humans, we can't be 24/7 happy, right? And you know, your parents would then start to say things like, why are you not happy? You have food on your table, you know, you have clothes on your back. What about the people that don't have it? What about this, you know? And then it starts to make you feel bad.
I think our parents' generation, though, the reason why they probably don't see the importance of things like therapy and just being vulnerable and having like transparent conversations is because they had to suppress it, whether they know it or not.
They didn't have the luxury.
Right, exactly. I think that's the perfect way. They didn't have the luxury of, okay, I'm not feeling my best, so I'm going to take a day out. For them, it was continuously go. Yeah. And whilst I do think there's elements of that can be admirable because it falls under the umbrella of perseverance, there's also the negative impact that has, where they have so much unhealed trauma that they've now dumped on their kids, they've projected on their children and the people around them, and then their kids are now carrying that and then growing up in their adult life with not only their own trauma but their parents' trauma.
And that's where that train begins of when you're younger, you don't necessarily, you can't comprehend the reason because you're so young, and you just think, oh, I just hate my parents, or, you know, my mum or my dad's just making, or my family just making my life difficult, or for whatever reason. And then you become of a certain age, you're able to understand the reason why. And I don't want to say it's too late, but at that point, a lot of relationships would have been damaged. And by the time, you know, you realize, you're just at the age where you understand it more, and it can go two ways. You can either be understanding about it, see if you can get help, get them the right help that they need, or get them to even understand what's going on, because a lot of the time they don't themselves. Or unfortunately those relationships have already broken, and it's just like, I've moved out the house now, and she just needs, they just need to deal with whatever it is that, you know, they're going through.
Do you think there's any coming back from those type of relationships, or no?
You know, I have a lot of faith.
I think there is. Do you know why?
And we see it every day. Even
the reason I feel like there's always hope for, I feel like there's always hope for everything.
Yeah.
And I'm quite optimistic, so you know,
yeah,
that's me. But the reason why I think that is because the biggest part of the biggest part of healing, or the first step, is honesty. And when a person is ready to be honest, then I think there's grace, there's openness, there's space
for anything to happen.
There's space for anything to happen, because I think that is the hardest part, is getting to the point where you can acknowledge that you are actually in pain. Because when you speak to so many people that have gone through really hard things in life, like a lot like of our parents' generation and stuff, it's not that they were not there when it happened, it's that they've now, the narrative of what's happened to them, they've had to change it. So to them, it's no longer a painful thing. It's just, it was part of how we grew up. That's just how it was.
It is what it is.
When you then give them the verbiage and the things that they need to piece it together as actual pain and wounds, then they're able to be honest, and then the healing can start. But some people have just never been given the right words, and that's why they have not started their own process of healing. Because healing is a thing that's constantly ongoing. Like it's not a thing that stops and starts. Like you're either actively or you're negatively like impacting your life. Do you get? So it's
it's true.
Do you know what? Also on the topic of healing, I was at church yesterday, and pastor said something about healing, which I've been thinking about for a while, actually, funny enough. And I've been seeing it on social media a lot. So the question was, how do you know if you've healed from a situation? How do you know? What does it look like when you've healed from trauma? Like, how do you behave? Is it different? Or are you going back to how things were before the trauma happened?
That question.
The question just had me thinking, like, a lot of us, it's so easy to open your mouth and say those words, I've healed. But how do you actually know? A lot of us are walking the surface of this earth claiming we've healed from trauma. But then is that because you haven't been triggered by a situation? That's why you can confidently say you've healed from it? Or do you know what I mean?
A lot of people, what they do is like they create like an ecosystem around themselves where they don't allow things that will actually challenge them to show up.
Would you call that healing?
That's
in
not
itself?
healing. No. It's a lie. Like you're living.
No, it is.
What's that show? The Truman Show.
Yes.
You're just living inside a TV.
In a bubble.
It's in denial.
You're in denial. You've created the storyline that fits you. Because everybody has a story. Like regardless of whether you want to admit it today or not. The only thing you do when you deny yourself the luxury of healing earlier on in your life is when other people are living in freedom, you will remain in bondage for the longest time. And it's sad, not to say it in a harsh way, but that's the reality of it. Until you're ready to be honest that you're in pain, you act a certain way because people have hurt you, or this and that. Until you're ready to vocalize it out and be honest with yourself, even if it's only to yourself that you're vocalizing it and then you're doing the right things that you can do to heal, you will continue to carry chips on your shoulder for other things and for other people. And as you've seen other people living freely, you don't think they're pretending. You think everybody else is pretending and you are the only real person.
Yes.
You get that whole narrative of everybody no.
And the way you think as well is very warped. Like I love that you brought up the fact that they now put everyone else in that same box as them. Also because I'm feeling like this. And that's not to say that it can't be the case, because I think it can, but that's not everyone. You have to be careful not to project how you're feeling onto everyone else. And to answer your question as well, I think this is one element of it. There's, the film Diary of a Mad Black Woman, Tyler Perry. There's a line in that film where he says, where his character Medea says, if you really want to know how you're over something, it's if you have the opportunity to take revenge and you don't take it. And when I heard that, even saying it, you might think, but people could fake. No, you actually have to listen to what he's saying. If you have the opportunity where no one else could see that you would take revenge, there'd be no repercussions, no consequences. if you can actively say no and walk away from that, then that's how you know that
I think
and that's why I said it's one element. That's one element of it, because it's very broad.
I kind of want to push it forward. I'll keep it short because I want to hear what you want to say.
Yeah.
Like I think to push it forward even a bit, it's like if you can actually see the benefits of what's happened to you, if that makes sense.
Oh my
you can
God,
see the good.
Yeah.
Because God works everything together for our good.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, if the chance for revenge came, you wouldn't take it. But then on top of that, you're able to then be like as well,
you're
you know
thankful.
what? You're grateful that
it
not
happened.
necessarily grateful. Sometimes it's not grateful that it happened, depending on the severity of what happened. But you're grateful that you were able to take something away.
That's
from
grace
it.
right there.
Yeah.
That's actually grace. I think to answer your question, I feel like for me, it's almost as if like maybe you're less anxious or you have like better coping mechanisms. I don't think you truly like heal like completely. I just think it's like a big ball that gets smaller, if that makes sense, and you get big, you grow from it, kind of thing. Like so I just feel like it's more like just putting, I don't know, saying that you've healed from something completely. I do agree with you, where I feel like it's very, you're in denial.
I feel like is it that sort of that approach where you're getting on with life whilst the issue, so in other words, is the issue always there, but you're just able to accept it more and cope with it?
For me, I see it as in the noise. It's not as loud in your head, and I feel like it's peace of mind as well. Like you're learning, you're just learning to cope with it, and you've got better coping mechanisms. And I definitely agree with you where you say like you learn to look at the good in things, and perspective is everything. I feel like perspective is everything, and to the point where you actually see that like this had to happen, because if this didn't happen, then I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Yes, exactly.
So it's definitely, I think like applying grace to situations key. It'll give you peace of mind, like genuinely. But
so I'm guessing that's the ultimate goal that we're chasing then, with the peace of mind.
Peace of mind. There's only, for me, the only way you can get that healing as well, you have to involve Jesus Christ. Yeah. There's no way you can do it on your own. Like I just feel like you can do all the therapy that you want, you can do all the masterclass.
I think they work hand in hand.
They work hand in hand. God
you can't do one without the other.
You can't because the Bible encourages you to even vocalize how you feel to other people. Therapy is communication. It's literally talking. On your point about you can never really fully heal for certain things. I can understand what you mean, because especially when you talk about stuff like grief and things, I feel like that's something that is a pain that you carry through life. But then there are other things I genuinely believe you can completely heal from, because an example would be, say for instance, you grew up and you went to school and you had a really bad insecurity because of what people used to say to you, and like I believe you can get to a point in your life where that can no longer trigger you. Like you can grow past. Like I really do think it's dependent on what happened to you. But
I definitely think on the topic of grief, I definitely feel like that obviously if that person's gone, they're gone. Like they're not coming back, and that's something you kind of obviously have to accept. But again, you just learn to live with it and just find better ways to like handle it and whatnot.
So, can I ask a question? How do you deal with heartbreak then? Because obviously we're talking about it generally. Let's personalize. Personalize. No, we don't need to go into too much detail.
That's a good question. That's a good question, though.
Do you know what? I don't know. We're all. I'm friends with everyone, like all of you guys here, and we talk about, again, I think this podcast is sort of a reflection of some friendships, in a sense where it's not as if we don't talk about the hard times and things that people go through, that we go through, but I feel like we tend to deal with that by ourselves a lot of the time. So I'm very intrigued to know how you guys deal with heartbreak, whether it be a relationship breakup or a couple breakup or loss or whatever sort of heartbreak that you're going through. Or if you don't want to be too personal, what would you say the ideal way to deal with heartbreak is?
I don't mind going first.
Yeah, go for it.
You guys know, I don't mind.
You don't mind. Don't mind.
So when it comes to relationship heartbreak, because I haven't experienced a grief heartbreak in terms of losing a person extremely close to me, I don't want to ever minimize like what it actually means to lose a person that you're really close to. So I don't want to. I've lost people that I care about. Obviously, it affected me, but not somebody you get. So I'll leave that to maybe someone else to share. But for me, relationship heartbreak, I think I've really grown in how I deal with it, because I think I'm grateful to God.
We all have,
because I actually believe you can be in a relationship and be over it so much quicker than you think.
Oh my God,
wow.
And I think it's this heartbreak culture of like glamorizing the eating the ice cream on the sofa and crying and stuff, like, not that you shouldn't cry, I'm a big advocate for crying, but as in like this culture of like, you'll never be over them, it'll be 3 months, 5 months, you're still crying. I don't believe in that. I believe that is bondage.
I used to believe in that.
I don't believe in that anymore. I believe that is actually bondage, because what you're actually doing is you're holding on to things that you should probably be letting go of, and that is why you are still in that same place. But anyway, for me, I remember a breakup that I had. It was a very sad one, but it didn't hit me all at once. I remember the conversation of everything ending was one day, but then I think it was the day after, maybe, or maybe it wasn't even when it was ending. I think something had happened and it was just really very disastrous. And I remember the next day I was on the way to Bromley to the Apple store, and I was just crying. You know, there was this uncontrollable cry. You'll be crying, you don't know how to stop crying. And I was even crying on the bus. And one thing about me, I don't have shame. I will cry on the bus. And like I remember just feeling so hard done by, like, your heart is like literally like, how the hell did this happen? You're just so distraught. You're so distraught. And I feel like the only way you get past that is when you stop almost being a bit self-piteous. I think the reason why people stay in a state of heartbreak in relationship terms, like the relationship type of heartbreak, is because you remain in a self-pity state. I believe if you genuinely want to grow from something, you can pick apart the relationship, see the things that happened to you that were harmful, and then see the bits that you also played a part in for the relationship breakdown. Be honest with yourself. Don't take too much time to be pitying yourself and patting yourself on the back and saying, oh, I was the best girlfriend ever. Hi, yeah. And that person, they did and they did this to me, and they did this to me, and they did this to me. And then you have also, there's people that will then come into you like, how could he have done you like that? And then they're really adding fuel to it. They're gassing you up. But you're the one that goes home away from that situation still very like
down. If anything, you're more down than
you're more down. And like, it's like, that doesn't encourage healing. That encourages you to stay in the same place. And the only advice I would give is that you genuinely have to be honest with yourself about what was positive about that relationship, what was negative, the role you played, the role they played. Is this relationship something that you see going forward? Is it going to be helpful? Is it healthy? Like, I feel like you have to be rational about a lot of these things, because sentiment is what sometimes also keeps us in bondage. Do you understand? So you have to also for me, genuinely, I believe you can get over things so much quicker than you think, because you think to yourself, for me, was this relationship glorifying God? Nah. Okay. Was this relationship making me a better person? No. Was I growing in this relationship? No. Okay, this happened to you. Am I a better person now? Are there things I've learned? Okay, let me carry my bag and be going. Yes, there might be days that come and you'll remember something and you'll be sad. That's normal, because you're human. That's how memories and all of that kind of stuff works, and that's fine. But you don't stay in that place. You almost have to take the thought captive, make it obedient to God, and you move past it. And then I genuinely think heartbreak doesn't have to kill you. Do you get? So that's it. That's really
you really summed it up. So I think I'm very similar to that. I'm not gonna lie. The way I used to deal, I thank God the way we dealt with it is just, it's getting better. I can't just get in better one time. No. But I think how I deal with it now, heartbreak in terms of relationship, I just feel how I feel, like, in the moment. I let myself feel all the emotions. In a heartbreak, I feel like you really have seasons of different emotions. So first comes the grief, this has happened and the relationship has ended. Oh my gosh, like, you feel all of the emotions. Sometimes you don't. And then the mourning comes next. So I've lost this person. I no longer have this person to speak to in the morning. I no longer have this person to do X, Y, and Z with. Like, this person was a big part of my life and they're no longer here. And then the next is acceptance. Like, okay, they're not in my life. How can I move forward? And I believe the next is releasing it to God. And I'm speaking as a child of God. I think what genuinely helps me is hope. Like, believe in scripture, believe in what God says in his word, believing that he says that he has good things for us, and we can hope because he knows what he has for us, and every good thing comes from him. So if that good thing that I thought was good is no longer in my life, then God, make room for the new things that you want to bring in my life. Make room for whatever else it is that you want to take place in my life. So I genuinely think it's that helps me to persevere and feel all of my emotions, but also remember that, okay, I'm not going to be in this position forever. And again, not put in a time frame, because I think what keeps a lot of people stuck is they think, okay, I'm like this today, by next year I'm going to be XYZ. but it's like you still have 3 months left to the year. A lot can happen in 3 months. Why? And words are powerful. So when you're saying, oh, okay, by next year I'm gonna have this, not this year. How do you like? How do you know?
Yeah.
How do you actually know? Why speak that over yourself? And then when it comes to December, you're gonna be upset and sad. Okay, this is how I still feel. Why? Well, because you spoke it over yourself. That's what you believed about yourself, that you would still be in that position. Be mindful. Like, yes, feel how you feel, but don't allow your emotions to dictate what comes out of your mouth.
That's it.
Be very mindful.
I'm definitely aligned with that. I feel like for me, I think the most important thing is honesty. Like, just being honest with yourself first about what's kind of happened. Because I feel like a lot of us like to act like, that didn't really bother me. No, it hurt. Like, it flipping hurt. Like, it actually hurt. And I think another thing is reflecting. I think I touched on what you said. I feel like it's important to actually sit down and reflect and like have your time to like dwell a little bit. Obviously not for too long, but I feel like, again, we move so like fast paced, and we don't actually have time to actually process things. And it's only until, I don't know, we get into another relationship, we realize, oh shit, like I'm actually hurt by what's happened in my previous relationship. I also think
I haven't addressed
exactly, and then you're just carrying your trauma and putting it onto someone else, like, which isn't nice.
Trauma it pops its head out at certain points
exactly,
that you don't expect,
and you never expected it.
Exactly. And do you know, I'm all for making lists. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you need a good and you need a bad, because the truth is we relapse as humans. Like, especially when you're talking to someone constantly, it's a habit. Do you get what I mean? It's a form of habit. So you need that list to remind you, no, this is why you're doing what you're doing. Because if you don't have, do you get what I mean? And I feel like sometimes you need to refer to something as well
to hold you accountable.
Exactly. And then it goes back to what you're saying in terms of acceptance. I think to actually truly believe that, you know what, I'm gonna find better, and this situation wasn't for me, it's hard. Because we're so like everything's about habits, and you're just so used to that one person, but you actually need to like accept that the sun will like come up again. Do you get what I mean? But I think that part is the hardest. But like, once you accept that, you know what, I will be okay, I will find better. I think that's when you start moving. And I think another thing is, I think it's so important to keep yourself busy. You're gonna need a routine, I'm not gonna lie, because you could, like you said, sitting down and just drinking that ice cream or eating that ice cream, whatever, like you need to get up and be busy and just pour back into yourself. You know, build yourself up, love yourself. And I know it's all so cliche, but honestly, like, these things are actually you have to keep yourself moving. Like, you actually have to move, or you'll just stay like stagnant.
For sure.
But heartbreak, I just feel like it's mad, because in the moment you think, oh my god, this is the end of the world, but in 5 years you'll look back and you'll even laugh at yourself. Like, you'll laugh at yourself thinking, wow,
that's how it was. I was crying like that.
Like, it gets almost becomes embarrassing. Like, I'm embarrassed for myself.
What
like,
shame.
all of this crying. Like, what a pity. But it's what happens, you know. It's life. But like,
you live and you learn.
You live and you learn. Like, there's actually light at the end of the tunnel. You have to, but you have to actually believe in that. And I don't know. It just, it goes back to my point of just move, get up and try and move. Because
that's the word, move.
Not for real, move, because you be setting up tent. You set up tent in misery.
No, facts.
And you're there.
And the
sun is rising and going down and rising. You're still there. Your tent is there.
And do you know what I realised? You know,
people have come and go.
Do you know what I realised? When you set up your tent and when you're sad, the only way is down.
Literally,
you only go down.
You literally set yourself up.
You're literally at the bottom.
Like, you're at, there's how low can you go?
Do you understand? Limbo.
At this point,
you're playing limbo with your life.
Go for sure.
You have to get up.
Come on, man.
Get up.
And the thing is, sorry, it's gonna sound even more cliche, but like, if you truly love yourself, you would never want yourself to be heartbroken for more than a certain period of time. Let's be very frank. I'm gonna be very frank with you. Me,
damn.
She's piece of shit.
Like me,
damn.
I am my own best friend, like, for real. And so because I am my own best friend and I care about Ayo, like, I can't go outside. Do you understand? I want the best for me. When you haven't got to the point where you actually love yourself as well, you don't want the best for yourself, or it's not that because you don't want the best for yourself, but you don't realize you don't want the best for yourself because you haven't loved yourself enough to that point. You have to get to the point where you love yourself to the point where you're like, this is not good for me.
But you know what? I feel like that comes from like knowing your self-worth
100%,
as well. Because I feel like in those moments, sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, like some guys destroy people's self-esteem, their self-worth, their confidence. So that's something, another thing, you have to build that back up, because it's a lot of the times as well, we take on what other people say about us, and really your voice is the loudest.
That's why I said you gotta be
the loudest.
Right?
So
like, so where you're saying get to that point of loving yourself, work on your self-esteem, work on your self-confidence, because
and the thing is, even in a relationship, because this is the saddest part for a lot of girls, right? We get into relationships and what the man has to say about us is all we care about now. That's the only thing that is making the sun rise, and
you've forgotten about what you like. You no longer do the things that matter to you, that makes you happy. It's his word is gospel.
Or you just don't invest in the things that made you happy, and now you only know what makes you happy as a couple. That doesn't, what is that going to do for the days when you're not with him, and what's that going to do for the days when you need to feel good on your own? Like, it's all good. I think relationships are the most beautiful thing ever, because God created us to be in a relationship with people, but like at the same time, you're only an asset to the person because of who you are. Once you start to depreciate and deteriorate as a person, you now become a liability to that person, and that's just the facts of the matter. So if you want a healthy relationship, you yourself have to continue growing and maturing into a
back into yourself.
Guys, I want to ask you a question. What do you think about closure, like during heartbreak? Do you think it's essential to get closure or not?
I think when it comes to closure, I'm 50-50 with this one. The reason why I'm 50-50 is because I genuinely believe it's good to have conversation. It's good to have questions that need answered. You know, if there's any grey areas, you can just knock it out the park and color it, and it's out of the way. The reason why I think sometimes closure can be detrimental is because people use closure as an excuse to go back and to take part in what is no longer healthy for them. For example, if they were in a toxic relationship, or they're in a relationship that they know that they have no business being in, and the relationship is ended, I need closure, but you're there in his bed at his house. In which part where's the closure in that
happening there?
And then you've left and you're feeling even more worse than you did prior to going to his house. So I think people, when it comes to closure, be honest about yourself. Is it closure that you need,
or is it reassurance?
Yes. Or is it that you actually just need acceptance, to accept the situation for what it is, and the fact that some questions, regardless of what the other person says, sometimes that will never be enough.
That's it.
Whether someone says sorry, whether they don't say sorry, whether they answer your questions, someone can do everything right after a breakup, and you will still feel low. You'll still feel like rubbish. So sometimes just actually being honest with yourself and saying, okay, if I have this conversation, how will it make me feel? Will it make me feel worse? Will it make me feel better? Will it make me feel better about the situation? So it's just about having that honesty with yourself.
See, I feel like closure is more of it's for you more than them, because you can't control how they will act, but sometimes it's important to just release what you're feeling, get things out.
And that's why I'm here for it as well. But when it's done in a healthy space.
I agree.
And mature space.
No, you go.
It was gonna go back to the point you meant about honesty. A lot of us were not honest with ourselves. When you now go back to now have this conversation, you haven't gone in there with a plan. You've gone there on vibes. A lot of these closure conversations have to have a plan. Like, you have to go there with a plan. If you haven't gone there with a plan, you end up leaving looking like a silly Billy.
I think
what questions do you want answered?
What questions do you want answered? And what do you want from it? How do you want to feel coming out of
what
this?
What do you want from it?
100%, because then that will guide the kind of conversation that you have. If you're I'm going to be very honest, and I'll speak from this as a woman as well. Like, sometimes you go back to have certain conversations with certain people because it makes you feel good about yourself. You know that maybe they're going to like gas you up, validate a certain part of you, and that's not closure. That in itself is also selfish.
That's not closure.
So it can veer on manipulative because you know exactly what you're doing. So that's why I say you have to go into these closure conversations with a plan, because closure is a good thing. Some chapters have to be closed in a way
for you to be able to move on properly.
Exactly, you have to navigate the situation right, because there are some people you will have conversation with them from today to tomorrow. You will never feel closed. You get, so you have to now close it yourself.
Closure is very subjective, like we've been saying. Different people think closure is different things, but I personally think the actual point of closure again is to close a certain chapter, to get not validation, but just to get clarification on things that you weren't sure of.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not exactly sure why the relationship ended, or you still have unanswered questions, like Ashley was saying. So you want to leave that conversation feeling like, okay, I get it now. Because if anyone's like me, I find it very hard to move on completely if I'm not completely sure of everything that's happened. Like, I find myself in a situation where I'm such a curious person. I love answers. I love asking questions. So if I feel stuck in something, I'm just like, wait, hold on. I can't fully move on till I know.
The what if queen.
I'd be the what if. I'd be
What if this is what you meant?
But because I didn't
What
ask you, I can never know. But then, I don't know if I'm correct in saying this, but I think closure, like a certain branch of closure, is also being okay that you might not get answers.
Yes,
facts.
Because that's what I was going to say.
Facts.
It's all good and well to be curious George, but there has to come a point where you have to be, whether you get the answer that you want or not.
That's what if the guy doesn't care?
That closure doesn't have to happen with two people sitting down and having a conversation. That closure can happen in your room by yourself. That closure can be you having those conversations,
self-reflection.
What you said, Johnny, writing things down. So yes, I might never be able to get the answer to this, but I have to find a way to be okay with it. That's the closure, the deep closure. And I think that's the strongest ever closure you can get.
Yes,
those other things,
100%.
those other types of closures, going out to speak to that other person, are bonuses. They're just extra things.
You're lucky sometimes.
You're lucky
if you even get that.
If you even get that, So the real closure is within yourself to know that regardless of however this ends, I'm able to move on from this. I am going to do the work required to move on from this. So if this person ever tried it, let's say they came back, or there was another similar situation that I identify, I know how to move accordingly, and I make sure that doesn't happen again.
The closure is taking your power back.
That's it. You should be leveling up after every heartbreak, personally. Yes. The way you dealt with this one, you should even deal with it better in the next one. If it's hard, but not if that is
no
heartbreak.
pressure.
But I think you should no pressure. But we should be learning from our mistakes.
No, that's all facts.
That's what healing also. If you're really healing, you learn from your mistakes. Like for real, like how I operated in my last relationship is completely different. I can't even lie to how I was in my relationship before that, because I should have grown, and if I haven't, what am I doing?
That's on me.
One reason I'm so critical of myself is because of the word stagnant. Honestly, I can't judge for other people because everyone has their own journey. I can't look at someone and say, why have you not grown? Honestly, I'll be honest, that's none of my business. I'm so self-focused on me, and one of my worst fears is being stagnant, feeling like I'm not growing. That is why I was even saying to my friend the other day, like, sometimes that's why people might look at me and think, why do you document a lot of things? Why do you take pictures? Why do you do this? I want to be able to look back and say, I've grown from this. I'm not how we used to be. We spoke about heartbreak earlier, and the way I used to approach heartbreak at a younger age, by God's grace, as you would expect, I've grown from it. Like, back then, heartbreak was me losing weight. I won't be eating. I'm going to be so honest with you. Like, that was heartbreak back then. But God forbid I do that now. That is not, the way I approach things, the way I perceive things. That you would know if there's a problem there, because you're growing in age, you're becoming older, but you're not getting wiser.
You're still,
I think learning from your mistakes is so important. The thing about
you're going to save yourself so much stress in the future from learning from every situation.
The thing about mistakes as well is that lesson will be repeated time and time until you graduate from that class, because it's mad.
You get it and you don't relapse.
Do you know what I realize as well? Sometimes your mistake can be your playbook as well. Like, going back, I think it's so important to learn. Like, your life, literally, your own. You can learn so much through your own experiences. It's like, you don't want the same. Like you said, you don't want to stay stagnant. You don't want to be having the same type of problems, because you'll start to think, am I possessed? There's something wrong with me.
Life is a lesson.
Life
is a lesson in itself.
Like,
teach yourself things. Like, you find yourself attracting the same.
It's actually madness when the same thing keeps happening.
Because that's it. They say, what is it? Doing the same thing, expecting different results is the first sign
of madness. It is.
It's
it really is.
It's the first sign.
No, it is. But that's why it goes back to sitting down and reflecting, because you need to really be assessing that. The same thing keeps happening. Why?
Someone had the best illustration on TikTok today when I opened it, and they were saying how God made seasons in it: winter, summer, spring. But then there's seasons of life that you go through, the reaping and the sowing, that thing. But then they were like, what the devil does, he tries to mimic God, but obviously he can never be God, dirty boy. He
said dirty boy.
That guy puts people in cycles. So you'll mistake it for a season, but it's really a cycle. And so you'll find yourself, you'll feel like you're on the cusp of something. You're about to be victorious in a certain area. You're about to be like, whoa, triumphant. And then you'll go back into a cycle. But you'll think this is just a season of life, like you'll be low again. No, but you're just in a cycle. You've been doing it and it's been years and years and years and years are passing. And you're thinking, no, this is just, the ups and downs
of my life. It's part of life.
No,
it's what happens.
It's in a toxic
it's
cycle.
That same situation repeating itself in different forms.
And you haven't learned from your mistakes. The fact that when you said, what you said about it being a playbook is so true. Some people's mistakes have now become the way they just do their life.
Oh my God.
That's just it.
Wow.
That's how you live your life. That's how you go. And you will continue to face the same battle. Yeah. Do you get it? But your armor keeps deteriorating.
I feel like the worst type of darkness is not even knowing that you're in it. So that's why you're right.
And you're just literally, because everything is familiar, especially when it's a cycle now. Like, it's familiar. Okay, this is what I always do when I'm sad. I just do this. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. Except instead of it's habitual. Instead of pushing yourself out and being like, you know what, this didn't work for me last time. I should probably do something else.
Different.
And also, like, a wise person, you learn from your mistakes, but a wise person learns from the mistakes of others as well.
Yes.
Like, for real. Like, you should see what's going on in this dirty, dirty world and be like, you know what?
But guys, what about those that have to touch in order to feel? Because how
I don't believe in that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't believe in that either.
Really?
I do.
Obviously, when I say I don't believe in it, I know what you're saying.
There are different types of people,
but those people like to make excuses.
Do you think?
Yes. Because why must you always feel to understand?
That's true.
Because say, for instance, there's those two types of people. That means somebody has to drown every single time. There has to always be a person that has to be at the worst point of their life for them to learn a lesson. And I don't believe that that's true. I believe that you can accept like reality earlier. But I think what it is for a lot of the people that have to feel to learn is that they don't grasp how important their value is. That's what I genuinely believe. I believe that when you always have to experience something for you to learn from something, you have not yet derived the value in yourself, because you don't see why. Like, you don't see why you should now not have to go through something. Does that make sense? Why must you have to go through the hardest thing of your life for you to learn something? Why must you have to go to rock bottom just to learn something? You shouldn't have to. Do you know what I mean?
There's also an aspect of, there's a lack of self-control there as well.
Yeah, and
a overindulgence when you really think about it. Because it's almost like, think of it like this as well. As a child of God, why would God want you to put yourself in a situation where you wouldn't need to be, or you'd have more damage done to yourself than necessary? So I think that whole I need to experience to learn or whatever it is it's an illusion.
Do you know what I think as well? I think it's impulsiveness. Like I feel like, especially like,
it's recklessness if we really speak about it.
Yeah, because I feel like with this generation as well, like obviously TikTok, everything's so fast again. I just feel like when we were so impulsive, like we don't have that time to like take time and actually be more, like you said, disciplined. And actually, because I feel like discipline, the word itself, like people
doesn't
just
sound fun.
Yeah, it's boring, but I feel like that's peace at the end of the day.
Because I love that question. Sorry. No, because for real, like, it's so sad to me that we have actually believed to the point that we have to go, like, you must harm yourself to. It's like it's like you going to a therapist and saying, no, just acquire more trauma and then come back to me. Does it rhyme? It doesn't rhyme. It, like, let's be thinking.
It doesn't make sense.
As a parent as well, when we have children by God's grace, you're not going to want them to do every bad thing you did so that they can learn. You actually want them to, you want to like almost block all those areas of your life where you fell into a hole. You're not going to now say fall into the same gut I fell in. Nobody would encourage on your own.
The reason, so why put yourself through it? If you know you wouldn't want your loved ones or your friends around you or your family members or whoever to go through that, why put yourself through that? And that's why I genuinely believe it goes back to, there's a lack of self-love and a self-worthiness there.
Yeah, the reason why I said I agreed initially was because I agree that it might be the quickest way to learn
for some people.
It might be the quickest way. Like
you're having to feel.
Having to feel is the quickest way, but it's not the you don't have to do it. But if we're talking about, you know what, if you need to, I don't know when in life would you need to learn something so quickly, like to that. So I guess it doesn't make sense, really.
I'm trying to think of something as well, because it might be the most quickest way, but it's not the most fruitful.
It's not the most efficient. Even like
it's not the most fruitful.
What we all don't realize, well, we all realize, sorry, what we I think sometimes like detach ourselves from realizing is that the more pain you go through, the more trauma you have, which means the more triggers you have, the more baggage you have. Like, do you understand?
The more work you have to do to debunk all of that.
As much as like, yeah, there's people, okay, the ones that don't hear, they must feel. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to say that you're the person that is feeling all the time.
Do you know what I feel like? Because I want to be optimistic.
Yeah,
I feel like from my perspective, sometimes maybe you become wiser. I think that's the only good thing that you might get from it.
But then this is why I said I think it's the quickest way, because again, the question we're asking is, those that don't hear must feel. You can become wise by hearing. You can become wise by hearing, and I think that's what I was trying to say, in the sense where, why do you have to go to extreme length for you to get the message? Why can't you get the message indirectly from what other people what you're seeing, what other people are experiencing? Why do you have to necessarily feel it yourself? And I don't know, this might sound a bit far-fetched, but isn't that going back to faith and believing? There's so many people out there that, you know, and sometimes, again, I'm not innocent from this, and I'm also talking to myself, and I think it's a human thing at times when we're going through things, and it's so hard to have faith because it's not anything we can physically see. Some people need Jesus to come down himself to say there's a God. And honestly, like, and it's so funny, again, I've been looking for a scripture to describe this perfectly, but at church yesterday, I think I found the one I've been looking for. Hebrews 11:1 was talking about exactly what faith is. It's not about what you can see. It's about your, not necessarily imagination, but it's the things hoped for. That's literally that verse of the Bible. And honestly, that resonated with me so much, because I always have this constant battle that I have to see. There has to be evidence. If there's no evidence, it's so hard for me to believe. But again, that's where I'm growing, because I'm realizing that not everything is for me to see, not everything's for me to feel. Sometimes it's there without you having to have any contact with it.
Even on Tem, that's so good what you just said. And also on that, like, what I've realized as well about the people that must feel is that there's a certain element of pride that comes into that too, because you think you will handle it better than how other people have handled it. Who are you?
I'll rise above it. They failed, but I can do it.
I'll be alright.
I can win.
You know, what's the quote? What's the quote? Oh, never me.
Yeah, never me.
And it'll never be me. And then you'll find that it is you.
And then you don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, that's it. There's so many lifestyles that get entered into on accident that you thought, you could. But then what happens is you get there and you realize how much. Okay, the thing is, people just don't realize how serious this world is. Like, as much as everything seems
how spiritual it is.
That's what I wanted to say. It's very much a battlefield. Like, if you wanted to know before, it is
don't fight against flesh
today
and blood.
That you think it's just a mistake, or I'm just trying. I always have to do this. The Bible literally tells us, right, that the devil, he literally prowls around
looking
like a roaring lion, looking for who he can just slip up. Like, the people think the devil is more powerful, not more powerful than God, but think that he's more powerful than them, and impossible. The devil's not more powerful than you at all. All he does is make suggestions, and it's about whether you follow what he's telling you to do or not. So, like, with the roaring, like people be like, oh, the devil knows what you're thinking. The devil doesn't know what you're thinking. What he does is he knows human behavior. He's seen it time and time again, so he can see what are humans susceptible to.
And he can use that same strategy on everyone. And even the ones that fall into it,
and it's working. But like, he literally has no power. So it's only when you give him power that you see it manifest
off of that
in your life. He can, especially as a Christian, like, you literally have the power that raised Jesus from the dead living inside of you, and then you now want to say that the devil, like, you want to flirt with things that are dangerous. I don't know how to explain it. Like, you have so much power to live above the lifestyle that you think you have to go through. Do you get what I'm saying?
One of the best things I've read as well, to touch on that, is when I was doing my devotional, it says sometimes the devil will plant thoughts in your head time and time again until you believe that they're your own.
Wow.
And then until you act off of it. So sometimes it's having that discernment, like, is this actually something I want to do? Like, is this something I actually believe? And it goes back to what does scripture tell me? Because that's my reality, that's my foundation, that's my truth. So if I know it doesn't align with that, then that's not something that I should be involved in. That's not something I should even partake in. That's not something that I should even dibble or tip my toe in. question. Because I know that's nothing to do with me.
Yeah, and do you know what? Again, listening to all of this, just again, there's growth there, because if you asked me this a year ago, I always go back to the word curiosity. Like, I'm such a curious person. I know a lot of people around me are very curious. You know, you want to try new things, you want to do things. And back then, honestly, I was such an advocate. I was like, feed your curiosity, you know, do this. And I still have that same mindset, but I have it with caution. The reason I say that now is because just because you're curious about something does not mean you have to go and do it, because what you're opening your mind to can be very dangerous. The doors you're opening can be very dangerous, especially in such a spiritual world that we live in. You open your mind and you open yourself to certain experiences in life, and you tell yourself, I'm just doing it because I'm curious, and that's it, it's just going to be that. How do you know that?
Exactly. And the thing is, Tem, that's such that being curious, I'm a curious person too. Being curious is not the bad thing. It's what are you curious about? Why do you want to be curious about wicked and evil things? Like, you don't need to be.
I think it goes, I genuinely think it just goes back to discipline. And I feel like,
and honesty.
And honesty. And where you said how, are these thoughts my own? Like, sometimes when you have that discipline, when you have that stillness, you'll be able to recognize God's voice and your own as well. But like, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie.
I think it's not easy. It's something that you work at every single day.
Literally, but the confidence that comes with it is crazy, because you feel like, wow, like
you're
I'm actually in control, and I'm in control of my thoughts. Like, I don't constantly, like you said, I'm a curious person as well. But where you say it's about what you're curious about, it's like, and it's like, why? Like, just asking yourself why. It's like an itch. Like, you just what is it? Like, because sometimes as well, when you actually figure out, sometimes it's just like you're just it's nothing. It's kind of like it's baseless.
It's baseless. You think you found your answer to it, but then what have you exposed yourself to in the process?
Exactly. What door have you opened that you can't actually close?
Exactly. And I think as humans, we're forever going to be curious. 100%. So that's why you're right in terms of
everyone has that within themselves.
It's not a bad thing to have. That's how you learn things. But then do you get? But
it's like, what are those things
that you want to learn? And on your topic of confidence, that is so true, because I feel like this is the thing, when people come and see how I personally articulate myself and like my personality comes across, it seems like I'm just like whatever. And it's not because I'm anywhere near the arrival point or but it's like I'm confident of who I am in my faith. I'm so confident in the God that I serve. That's why I speak with the conviction that I have. It has nothing to do with me thinking that I know things. It's not nothing like that, because I think it can be easy. It can easily come across when you're confident and you say things that seem to be against the status quo and everything like that. It just seems like you're either you think you know everything, or it's like no.
It's not that.
How did you like get to that level of like confidence?
I feel like you just have to stop caring. Like, my whole life, I think when you realize that caring about what people think is going to make you literally like crumble to the floor, but I think it's realizing it early.
And in your faith, like how
in my faith,
you're in your faith as well. Like,
you have to believe that God is who He says He is. I think that's really, because I think what is a lot of our generation play with God. Do you get, like, they play with Him like He's a joke to a lot of people. Real, like, for real. God is a joke to a lot of people. They don't believe in His sovereignty and they don't really respect Him.
Have one foot in, one foot out.
There's no reverence.
There's no until you read, because when you believe that God is, how can you not be confident? He's literally the creator of the world. Like, the confidence doesn't come from you. It comes from, you literally have the savior of the world. Like, you have the person who defies everything that, like he defeated evil. He defeated, like, who he is. Like, you believe in that. Like, I don't know. That's the only way I can explain it, because when I wasn't as confident in my faith, it was because I wasn't really investing in getting to know God's character. I didn't really know anything about Him.
How did you invest?
You read your Bible. Like, these are very practical
intentionality.
steps. You read your Bible, you pray, and on top of those are the things you hear all the time. But apart from that, be around other people that genuinely want to love Jesus. If you want to be a silly Billy again, especially when it comes to your faith, you will continue to flirt with things that don't align with your faith. That's what continues you stay in your silly Billiness. But like, for me, I literally, my closest circle are Christians. I invest in my faith. It's not like an accessory. It's my lifestyle.
And then you get down.
I love that where you say you invest in your faith. I think it goes back to your point, Temi, when you said some people have one foot, one out. And I feel like with my growth, what I realize is you gotta be all in.
You gotta be all in.
All or nothing.
Like, it's all or nothing.
I always said as well, we're not. We live in a spiritual world.
Yeah.
We fight not against flesh and blood. Like you don't know the spiritual powers that are at work in this world.
Yeah.
So you cannot afford to dibble and dabble.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the things of God, you're just like, oh well, you know,
I think
I'm gonna be lighthearted about it. No,
Yeah.
the devil's not letting up.
Yeah,
he's not letting up anytime soon.
You know, when I was younger, I did believe in this one leg in, one leg out, and I generally thought that was fine. Well, you can have one leg in, one leg out because there's still one leg in, right?
Yeah.
You know. But the older I got, the more I realized that's not service to God in any way. It doesn't work like that. And again, you also need to remember, like, no one's really forcing you to pick this faith. You don't have to.
It's about what you want.
Think about for you to commit to something.
That's
it means a lot.
It's a personal decision.
The
a
least you
conviction.
can do is give it your all.
The least you can do is even put the 2 feet in, because if you were in a relationship with someone that was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you wouldn't even stay.
Oh God.
Talk less now.
So
your actual
true.
God, your
Father.
1 foot one. Like, does it even
so
rhyme?
true.
Nobody is forcing you for real. Like, that's the real reality of it.
That's
and on
so
top
true.
of that, like, it's like the Bible says it itself. You can only serve God or you can serve the world. You serve evil or you serve Him. He doesn't like
Can't
the
do
in
both
between
at the same time.
He himself, he says he's a jealous God. He's jealous for His creation. He loves us too much to share us with the devil. So if you want to be of the devil, you be of the devil, and if you want to be of God, you be of God. That's it. There's no in between.
It's simple,
There's no I want to do this today and then tomorrow. Like, obviously people are growing. Let's be
give
real
grace,
and be honest.
Yeah.
The path of a Christian is not. It literally
Straightforward.
says the righteous fall 7 times. Like, as a Christian, you will also have times when you are like, but the defining like title, the defining lifestyle of a Christian is one that is improving. A Christian shouldn't be found to be doing things that are against Christ, and that is the reality of life. And people believe that it's hard to live that life in this world, but it's not impossible because we have the Holy Spirit.
Also, I think it's like I genuinely believe God makes it easier for you.
He does.
And I thought,
When you
how
give
I-
Him everything.
how I see it is, you
Absolutely.
give a little, He'll give you a lot. Like genuinely,
When you
And I
honor
think
God, He'll honor you.
This is the
That's it.
thing. I feel like sometimes we think it's so hard, it's so difficult, but naturally, when I feel like as I'm growing as well, there's certain things on my lifestyle, certain decisions, it's not even like attractive anymore.
That's
like
it. The
it's
things
like
that you used to find
do you get what I
attractive
mean? It's like
He changed
it's
that
like
the Holy
a-
Spirit.
It's like you
It's
guys
like
were
an
at church on
orange.
Sunday. No, honestly, this is what Pastor she gave an analogy. Like, she literally described it. So she said, if you're asking God for this is what you've come to God for, and you're doing everything just so you can get this job or whatever it is, and you're praying, you're fasting, you're reading your Bible, you're doing this, you're doing that, and then in the process of doing all those things, you find that this is not even as important. Like, what you've come to God for is not even as important, because He's changed you so much in the process, and now it's not God, give me this job. It's now God, let your will be done.
Amen.
That's the point you have to. That's the point you get to, yeah.
guys.
Because it fills your heart
mad.
with His desires.
Yes.
You think, okay, the things that I actually wanted, the things that I desired, the fleshly things, it's nothing in comparison to what God desires for you. And then the more you get to know Him, the more you spend in His Word, the more you pray, the more you have that intentionality, you realize, do you know what, God, let your will be done.
That's all that
Because
matters.
the things
is
that I
will.
want, it's not in
What does
comparison.
it even mean?
The things that I want,
I don't know
they're
anything.
worthless.
I don't know
They're
anything.
worthless in your presence.
Like
Like,
that.
the things that you can give,
Yeah.
it's like the verse that says He can do immeasurably more than you ask and imagine.
Yeah.
And until you actually believe what you read, going back to what I said, until you believe who God is, 1, 2, until you believe who God says, what God says about you, and until you believe also that God is good
all the time.
He's
never
regardless
humble.
of what happens, regardless of how you feel.
Yeah.
Because I think that's another thing as well. Regardless of how you feel, regardless of the emotions that you experience, that doesn't change who God is. God is God. Regardless of what takes place in this world, He is still good. That will never ever change.
Yeah.
He's the Ancient of Days. He's faithful. So you have to come, until you come to that realization, you actually realize, okay, yeah, I believe this. That's when change comes.
That's what, and sorry, just to tap into what you're saying, because I struggle, because I know it's like people make it sound like what
Black and
Jonifa
white.
said is so good, because yes, people in this generation, it's so hard to be a Christian. It's not really. What's hard is you're struggling to give up what you the lifestyle,
the flesh,
you're struggling,
the body.
You don't want to surrender.
That battle is hard, especially if
It
you
is.
flirted with a lot of demonic things. It's very hard. No, it's not even to be, you know,
screaming. No, it's true.
like it's the
Yeah.
reality of life. When you're addicted to
screaming.
something, yeah. So a lifestyle is addictive. Do you get, like,
Facts.
let's forget substances. A lifestyle where you've always been in control is addictive. To now surrender control is not easy.
To
So
give
I
that
can
up.
completely. If you're talking about about it like in that, let's be honest, yes, that is very difficult. But you have to get to, once you get to the point where you're happy to surrender, God makes it easier for you. And that's just the reality.
But you have to get to that point.
You have to get to that point. And that's why salvation and all these things, when it comes to Christianity, you have to have a personal encounter with God. Nobody can force you. Like, it doesn't work with people telling you, oh, try.
You
like,
have to do this.
You have to come to a point where you yourself have said, I actually felt the presence of God. I know he exists.
No one can feel it for you.
Until there's a verse that says you have to believe that he is and that he's abundantly able to deliver. Like, you have to believe it. Until you believe it for yourself, you might now look at everybody else's life and be wondering, why are people so confident in their faith? It's not something that you are in control of. You have to get to the same conviction point that other people have, and it's possible. It's not.
I feel like it's a muscle. It takes time. You have to exercise, and that you have to even in your darkest times, you have to still be like, you know what?
You have to keep pushing
like,
through.
There is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's hard because I'm not gonna lie,
it's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
But when you see that, that's literally where the source of life is. That's why I keep saying, like, you need to believe in it. Like, you just need to know, because if you know all good things flow from it, well, like, why not? Like, the thing of the analogy that you said is so powerful, Tim, because
it's beautiful.
It's interesting. A lot of people come to God for things, and then when they get to him, they realize that he's the only thing that they need, because that's literally, he is all you need, and everything else is an addition. It's like the seat, the first, the kingdom of
do you know it's
and
for
all
me?
less shall be added.
I feel like for me as well, I've got to a point where I don't even want to just come because I need something, or
exactly,
like, it's even when you're sad, when you're happy, when you're down, like, it needs to be
through it all.
Do you know what I mean? It needs to be consistent. Why is it always when we hit rock bottom is, oh God, please like, help me? Like, why
when
is
he wants
it
you to run to him every single day?
And it ties all the way back into healing. Like, to heal, you learn from your mistakes. And when even in your relationship with God, I think that's the biggest healing journey everybody needs. That is the ultimate path of health.
He's the ultimate healer.
He's the only healer, the divine. You get? So, like,
that's it.
To heal is to heal. So, for instance, to make practical steps, because I really like that part of that you mentioned about your blog. Like, you always give practical steps. And I think when it comes to Christianity as well, people are giving so much advice and no practical steps.
Yep.
And that is facts. So, an example of a practical step is, you've heard all of these things, and I believe in the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit ministers to people all the time. You've heard this, and it's not by chance that a lot of people will hear this podcast episode. And you probably know that there are decisions you probably need to make after you've listened to this podcast episode to truly heal and to move on and to stop making the same mistakes. You now put what you've heard into action. It's not now that you've heard and you say, well, on to the next.
That's it. Yeah.
Because then you'll then be wondering, but okay, where were the practical steps is they were given now. You've heard. That's it.
Wow.
That part.
You know, we always do this. Sorry. we just be talking, and then it leads to one thing or another.
And it goes to another.
Do you know what? One thing I can be proud about with this podcast is, I don't know about everyone else, but I be taking something away every week.
Every single time.
amazing.
Like, I always take something away, and I try to just use it in my lifestyle, and just it's always so nice to hear from like-minded people, especially people like your friends, the people that you have in your inner circle. It's always good to hear their thoughts on certain things that you might not discuss in a general setting. But thanks, guys.
Thank you
for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
How did you enjoy it?
No, I loved it. Like, you're all just so wise. So, no, honestly, I loved it.
Thanks for coming
we appreciate you for coming. Seriously,
you have very beautiful insights, and I like the way you articulate yourself.
This is why I said Johnny has to come on the
and it's so crazy because I know you were supposed to come on. I remember the last season, and I think whatever happened. But I know
there's a reason. There's a reason why
you were meant to come today.
Yeah,
that wasn't a coincidence.
Like discussions in MJ's room. And when me and you would just have conversations, or we'd have conversations every day, I was like, Johnny, you need to come on the pod.
I think the fact that you guys put like the Christian spin on it as well, it's just, I think it's so like important, and I love that, because it doesn't come across as forced. Like, I can tell like, nah, these girls are on this path. Like,
first and foremost,
you know what I mean?
Don't
joke. You lot are shining, so I love that.
Thank you again for coming on, guys. Everything, her blogs will be down in the description box. Let us know your thoughts down below. I know this was a lot. It was a heavy one. It was
we might need to break it in two.
Everything.
But let us know your thoughts down below.
Be doers of the word and not hearers only. That's it.
Correct.
We'll see you on our next episode. Bye.
Great.